What's up, Liron here. Thank you for joining me in episode 4 of my podcast. I hope you've been enjoying it so far. I really appreciate it if you are listening, and I want to thank you for being here. So, in today's episode, we're going to talk about artistic abilities and whether it's a talent you are born with or something that you hone. This is a hot topic. It's been one for a while now, and I published a few videos on this topic in the past, and they always get these mixed comments. A lot of people say that they feel like artistic talent is something you are born with, creativity is something you're born with, and like if you don't have it, then you're just at a disadvantage. Some people protect the other opinion, and they say that it's really something that 100% develops with you as you go along through your life. It's not something you are born with. And many people are in the opinion that it doesn't really matter, at least from what I saw, it doesn't really matter which one it is, but if you want to be, you have to work at it to improve. So I'm kind of a mix of all of these opinions, and we will talk about it right now. So I'm not really sure. I don't think anyone knows really the answer to that question. My view on this is very practical, and I can also give you my experience. So let's start with what I experienced, and later on I'll tell you like practically what I believe to be the case. So anyway, for me, I've for the longest time, ever since I can remember myself, I've been drawing. Now, this doesn't mean I was drawing successfully. I do remember, if I go back to when I was about 5 or 4, I remember I sat down on my grandma and grandpa's porch outside, and I had a Dr. Seuss book, and I was kind of, I talked about it on the first episode, I believe. I just kind of looked at the drawings and tried to recreate them. And from that age already, I wouldn't say I was creative or anything. I just really enjoyed recreating what I see in the book on paper. So I wasn't drawing anything from my mind too much. I wasn't inventing or imagining things. I kind of just looked at stuff and drew them, and this is what gave me a lot of pleasure. The one thing I did notice developing, I think very early on, was my visual perception. And so I believe I have a really good grasp of three-dimensionality. I can pretty easily rotate objects in my mind. I can just imagine them in different angles and from different points of view, and I can just draw them the way I see them. Now, this ability is limited. For the very most complex objects, I don't have that. So, for example, for drawing or sketching people, or for like portraits, things like this, it stops there. But for three-dimensional shapes, landscapes, cityscapes, buildings, and things of that nature, it really, really is present in what I'm doing. And so I think this is one ability that I did have for a long time now, and I'm not sure, it could be genetic. I think my father is also good in drawing, but he never really developed it too much. He's really good in caricatures and the more sort of comics-ish style. Now, an interesting thing happened when I started working on watercolor painting, and this really shifted my perspective, because for the first time I really felt the struggle of learning something new and of being a bit frustrated with the medium, because drawing always came kind of natural to me, to the point of even I'll talk about it in a few moments, but not even giving it enough attention and not even trying to hone it. But anyway, watercolor taught me that skills are definitely honed, and I think I do believe some people have a natural knack for like watercolor painting, even though it's a very specific medium. Just like my visual skills, I said they stop at organic shapes like people and portraits. I have a friend who can draw people from imagination in really complex poses, and it's without practice. And this is something that really kills me when I see this. It's amazing. So you can take artists like Kim Jong-il E, and I forgot his name, Kim Jung-ji. Yeah, Kim Jung, that's another guy. But anyway, you can take artists like Kim Jung-ji, and they can really sketch and draw from imagination, but that's after years of honing their skills. So my friend can do this without, he never really practiced this. Okay, he may do like one drawing a month. But in any case, I'm going off on a little tangent here. So back to watercolor. This really taught me how a lot of skills are just honed and aren't there. So for me, it didn't come natural at all. I kept struggling with the water to paint ratio. You can see this in my earliest work. I'm happy I did record a lot of the earliest paintings I did, so that it's there, up there, and you can see the way I came from there, because it will also be useful to inspire other people. I think that just seeing where I started, and it's a very humble beginning in watercolor, will really help give others inspiration to what's possible, especially when I'll reach that really top level that I strive for. So this really is, I think, my gift to the world in the next few years, I guess. Now, in terms of creativity, from what I read and many researches I saw, a lot of people say that it's definitely a trait you are born with, and you can be on a scale of like really creative or not creative at all. Now, I believe, of course, everyone has a minimal level of creativity, but like being really at the top of it, a lot of it comes down to genetics, from what I saw by a guy that I really like. He's called Jordan Peterson, and he has a few videos on creativity. He mostly talks about completely different subjects, but he does touch upon creativity as well from time to time. And so, again, I will put everything, all the information in the show notes. So anyway, he says that creativity is definitely a trait, and you may have it and you may not have it. I really believe it's a skill, and even regardless of where you are on that scale, I think you can definitely develop it. And I think it's really important to develop it. And I think if I look back at the time when I was a kid, and all up until I finished my military service, I was really neglecting my talent, my natural talent for drawing or perception of three-dimensional shapes. I wasn't really working on it, and looking back, I do regret some of that. I really pulled myself together afterwards, so I can't really regret it too much. But I think when we have a natural gift for something, sometimes we tend to take it for granted. Even now, when a lot of the time when people tell me that they loved that I'm really good at something, my natural tendency is to be like, they're just saying it because they're nice, even though I know that it's really important in these cases to take things at face value, like really not overthink it. Because if someone compliments you on something, maybe they're just trying to be nice, but for the most part, from what I see, most of these kinds of compliments are genuine. And so I really think it's a dangerous trap to take for granted your talent. And you may be talented in many things that you get recognition for, even just from friends or family members. And it's such a natural tendency to just, to just say, yeah, thank you, and then just think to myself, oh, they're just saying this because they're nice, or something like this. And so I urge you to pay attention if that happens to you. By the way, this is why I love this podcast format. We started by talking about creative and artistic abilities, and if it's born talent or not. Now we're talking a bit about how to accept good feedback. So I just like this free flow kind of way of doing things. So for me, for the longest time, really, I did not develop my drawing skills at all. And only when I finished again my military service, I decided to make this my career, and then I understood, well, I better sit down and really work on my skills. If you really see my very first drawings and sketches as a kid, and even straight out of the army, you would see that I wasn't that good. You will definitely see a huge difference, even in sketches, in which I tend to think I'm naturally gifted in. You will see it. It's not that good. at all. So I think it's a really good and humbling experience. I think I should record a video on my YouTube channel, which I will put a link below in the show notes, talking about showing some of my very first sketches. Actually, this is something I need to remember to do, because I did one with my very first paintings, and it was really positively accepted. A lot of people felt like it gave them the perspective and the motivation needed, because when you see someone creating crazy beautiful art, not to say that I'm at that point, but any other artist, and then you see their first few works and you realize they're just like you, it means that you can be like them. Okay, so this is something that's fascinating to me, and it really comes down to discipline. So what happened was that after the army, I was like, okay, I want to live off of something that I enjoy. What could be that thing? And I knew that I'm like naturally, I'm good at teaching, and I enjoy it. I like to share my knowledge. I'm good at writing, and I also have been drawing ever since I can remember myself. So this is actually how I got to write my first book. I was like, okay, if this is something I'm good at, let's put everything together and create like actually a product. And this is what got me started. I wrote my first book, then I wrote 2 others that were a complete failure. The 4th one really made it, and up until today is the one that really is the kind of top seller and bestseller, and from which I make most of my money. But I realized, the moment I started to realize that I want to make this a career is the moment I really pulled myself together and I started practicing and really, really honing my skills. Now, I practiced what made me have fun and enjoy. So the main thing I was working on was sketching, just from observation, pure sketching. And this is really the thing I became better at. So I find a complete correlation between the thing you work on and you really try to improve and what you're actually becoming good at. So it does work. Practicing and working on the skills really does work. So hard work pays off in any case, and this is the main thought I want to leave you with. There were times really in watercolor, it's more fresh in my mind because it was maybe about a year ago when I started, a year and a half, probably a little more than, even a little over a year and a half. And I really worked hard every single day. I would do the basic exercises, then I'll try to go for full-fledged paintings. I would explore different styles and different artists and try as many different approaches as possible, just because I understood that I have to really own up to it if I want to become better. And the daily, and I cannot stress this enough, and this is the practical part I want to leave you with, is the daily aspect is super key, because if you miss one day, it can already start leading to some regression. Now, I won't say you lose your progress, definitely not, and you don't need to stress over it, but the compounding effect of working every day for a year is crazy. And if you look at a larger time scale for like 5 years, it's amazing. And I once heard a very smart person that I talk about quite often, Gary Vaynerchuk, and I don't know if it's his saying or someone else's saying, but what he said was that people overestimate what they can achieve in 1 year and underestimate what they can achieve in 5. And this is really a fascinating saying for me because I find it to be true. A lot of people really are disappointed when they've been doing it for X amount of months or for a year and they don't see the progress they want to see. And I know this issue up close because I'm very impatient with my success and with my art. I'm really impatient with these things. I really want it to happen faster than it happens. And it's just me, having a gap in my mind and believing it should happen faster, when in fact, it should happen at the exact pace it happens. And so a lot of people are disappointed when it's been a year and they don't see the results they want, but what they're missing is that there is huge, tremendous growth under the surface, and they are learning new things and they are improving, and they really underestimate what can be achieved over the long haul. I'm talking about 5 years, a decade, 2 decades, and I try to keep my perspective as long term as possible. So I know I won't become the best watercolor artist in 3 years. And this is like a part of my goal, to be a really renowned, I don't want to say best, because there isn't really a clear-cut scale. Of course, there's tons of people that are really good, but I want to be a really renowned watercolor artist. And in fact, I want to be a well-known character kind of in the world of creativity and art. I usually say it's like I want to be the Tony Robbins of art and creativity. And so I know it's not going to happen in 1 year or 2 or even 5 or 10. Now, this is not to say it's a limiting belief and it cannot happen that time period, but I am trying to be very, very dreamy in my actual work, and still very realistic when it's time to look at the results. Okay, so I find that that's a good balance. And with that being said, let's connect it to what I wanted to tell you, that if you really want to, you'll need to work on those skills anyway, because even if you have a natural talent or gift for something, it doesn't mean that you're going to be good at it to the level necessary to succeed, because raw natural talent, at least in the artistic fields, from what I see, isn't enough. It can be a little more significant maybe in some other areas, and even then I'm not sure. I know athletes must work their ass off if they want to be really good, and the natural talent is never enough. So I think it's the same for almost any field. If you're naturally gifted, it's only a sign that you should probably work twice as hard, because there's someone out there who is half gifted as you and works 3 times harder. So that's my message for you. I think that the daily practice is irreplaceable. You really, really gotta do it if you want to get better. And I think for me, because I still haven't achieved all the business success I want and the financial success I want, I'm on my way there. The one thing I can say I'm super proud of is my determination and my discipline in working every single day. Okay, so I've been rambling a bit. I think it's time to wrap up this part of the podcast, and I want us to move to the Artist Corner, the corner where I feature or talk about one artist in particular, and I promised it's going to be many different fields, because I want people of different walks of life or different artistic inclinations to enjoy this part. And so this time I want to feature a rapper that probably all of you know, and that's Tupac Shakur, and I had to put him in here because how can I say it? I've been a fan of rap for the longest time. Like Eminem, usually that's my go-to, and I would listen to him a lot growing up, and so I have a lot of kind of emotional anchors with his music. And I really connect with all the struggle and triumph and getting over obstacles and beating the competition. And the thing is, for the longest time, I didn't listen to Tupac's songs. Of course, I listened to Ghetto Gospel, which is, one of his most well-known songs, but that's kind of, the very obvious one. But then I accidentally, while painting, I came across his album, a full album, and I just put it on, and I discovered a few things. So first is that he's a musical genius, meaning the music itself is really smart. Second is that he's a lyrical genius, and really he used, I think his songs are the first rap songs I ever listened to that I actually had to open like a dictionary or Google to search for a few words I didn't understand. So that was an interesting experience, like convalescent. That was one of the words he used, and I didn't know that one. And the third thing I discovered, and I watched an interview of him, and I know I'm completely late to the party, but if any of you are, if you are late to the party as well, then I recommend you check out his music. I just found out he's a really smart man in general, and I really recommend giving his music a try. Even if you're not necessarily... If you're a hip-hop or rap fan, definitely. And even if you're not, he has some really good songs. The one I would recommend, if you know Ghetto Gospel but you never listen to any others, is until the end of time. That's, I think, a masterpiece. So until the end of time. I will put everything in the show notes, okay? So this is it for this episode. As for the show notes, it's in the usual URL. So you go to my website, lironyan.com/EP episode 4, okay? So that's LIRONYAN.com/EP4, okay? And there you'll have everything we talked about, all the advice, all the people we talked about, books, etc., okay? So be sure to check it out. There will also be links there to my YouTube channel, to my Instagram. If you want to listen to my podcast while looking at some kind of video, I do try to distribute it to YouTube as well, also SoundCloud and many other places. But on YouTube, you can actually watch something as I talk. I think I'll try to put something in the background, maybe me drawing or maybe a combination of many things together. Okay, so I really hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will talk to you again really soon.